Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of y'all, and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. I gotta ask this question at times, usually to myself. Now I gotta ask this to some other people. Gentlemen, when are we as a people going to throw off our desensitization to Pookieism? So I'm going to let y'all in on a little secret, black folk. And you can ask Sand Dog to corroborate this, and I've already talked about this before anyway. What makes us unique amongst groups of people is not and has not ever been the existence of the Pookie and the Ray Ray, the idness. What makes us unique as a people has been our desensitization to them and to their negativity at a mass level. See, most of us are not idness. And for those who are hearing this for the first time, idness is my pronunciation of the acronym IDNS, intentionally dysfunctional negative stereotype. Most of us are not that. The issue is that we turn around and we act like that is normal for us, even though most of us won't do these things. We still accept this as a part of us. So we're actually not giving ourselves enough credit for the morality that most of us do have and the sense of decency that most of us do have. That's been our error. Now, I have not talked much about Ramil Lamir because we don't cross paths. I mean, we know some of the same people, but we don't cross paths. So let me go ahead and point this out. And, maybe my peace greeting at the beginning was not appropriate for this, but let me point this out with no hatred. Ramil, the Pookieism, even so much as the visual affectations of the Pookieism and the audible affectations of the Pookieism need to stop. The stink of street nigger life needs to disappear when you decide you're going to get your life together. And I'm very glad that financially you got it together. I really am. But in all honesty, the way that you went in on O'Shea, who is neither friend nor enemy to me, we don't really know each other like that, had a low down element to it, and that is this. One man was in your comment section and he said he's a godfather, not a stepfather. And then some other people said, wait a minute, he's a godfather, not a stepfather. I saw at least two people, I remember seeing two commentators in your chat saying this, and you never said it. Bruh, didn't he put you on? Wasn't y'all cool at one point? And now you gonna go off of something that you vaguely remember, and you didn't stop when they were telling you this in the chat. Even if you did not see this, sir, that's a problem. That's that Pookie shit. Because see, one of the permanent consequences of Pookieism when you start that street life stuff is, let's be honest, it usually goes hand in hand with a certain attitude towards academics and studies. You don't want to pay attention to detail, which is necessary to succeed academically. You don't want to pay attention to what you and other people write, the nuance, which is how it is that you wound up confusing godfather with stepfather. Then you decide because of that, you're going to go in on passport dudes and SYSBM dudes talking about we're still settling for single mothers. Well, some of us are single fathers, so that may be the case. Now, if you are a single father, then yes, the single mother in Colombia or the Dominican Republic has a higher chance of being a better person than the one in the United States. That is true. Now, we know this from experience. Most guys that are childless, and the only reason that you know that Colombia had a higher single mother rate than the United States is because it was guys with passports that told you this. Now, if you have a passport, put it to good use. I think you traveled before, if I'm not mistaken. I think that was you that made some trip somewhere, but it just wasn't for no broads. But keep this in mind, bro. You got to get off this Pookieism stuff. And I'm talking about even with lingers of it. You need to understand that Pookie and Ray Ray culture you practice was some subhuman, inferior bullshit. And it's not just you that needs to understand it. Even some other content creators that want to sit up and say dumb stuff like, you need to have swag to get a bitch, need to accept the fact that a bitch who demands swag is a baboon hyena bitch. That's why I'm calling them the B word. Otherwise, I wouldn't say that about them. Some women are just sluts. Okay, well, you know what, they for the streets. But when you got a hot Bristol-philic, swag-warning, bulletproof, bullet hole loving, hot Bristol-philic woman, that's a beast, bruh. She's for the zoo. And that's what Lionel McTown and I have been talking about. Now, if you were in them streets before, and you got a record from it, and you left that life behind, which I think you have every intention of doing, that's fine. But you must also understand the depths and the lengths to which you must go. Just like you had to go to some extreme lengths to really get street cred in a bad environment, you got to go to some lengths that you would consider to be extreme in order to really turn your life around. And that means you'd have to change your whole outlook on things like nuance and academics and attention to detail and literacy. Until the day that you understand the validity of somebody being concerned about your spelling and punctuation and grammar, and until the day you understand the necessity of being concerned about your own, and until the day that you understand that the squares were right, and that being square don't mean being a bitch and being a wimp and being a punk, and until the day you separate these things, you and not just you, but even others, you still ain't turned your life around completely. Malcolm X met a very high standard of reform. He came out of that prison articulate, literate, in his first language. He could use slang if he needed, the slang of his time. But he could also use Oxford grammar if he needed. He taught himself that. That man didn't have to go to university. He utilized what was there to teach himself. What he had not learned when he was in school, he went back and he fixed that. A lot of cats today want to talk about how they got their lives together, but they don't want to actually meet those mental, intellectual standards of reform, and it shows. And you just showed it, sir. You turned on your boy. You missed his exoneration. You missed what he actually said from the beginning, because I remember him saying something about a goddaughter before, never stepdaughter. And then you start going in on guys that he doesn't even claim to be a part of. Like, he doesn't call himself SYSBM or IBMOR, from my understanding. Maybe the closest is IBMOR, because he likes Ugandan women too. He's for the sisters, regardless of nationality, as far as I understand it. He might have some idea that maybe we can reform the black community and that, brothers need to learn. No, screw that. No game. Brothers don't need to learn game. There are things that brothers can afford to learn. Charm, manners, things that work. All people can afford to learn social skills, but in the U.S., where you all are, the women don't have social skills, and you need to have them to get them, and you think that's an okay arrangement. What we're saying is no. F that pookieism, F all that swag and all that other stuff. All these negative stereotypes. What about the substance? If the bitch don't like a man with substance and she wants a man with bullet wounds, she's for the zoo. And we don't want her. And if every sister that we're going to at least see outdoors and could possibly meet has those same tastes, or even 10% of those tastes, we're done with all of them. That's what we're saying. And that's a growing number of men. Now, I'm not going to sit up and act like we black people are the only ones to have the Pookies and the Ray Rays. Y'all can ask Sand Dog. And if you don't know who he is, ask Green Gorilla who he is. I call him Sand Lion. He has lived and worked abroad like I am. Where he lives and works is a fairly short flight from where I live and work. Where he has lived and worked, well, those are some longer flights from where I'm living and working now. But what he has seen the Pookie and the Ray Ray that don't have none of the niggerilla swag we like to brag about, but they commit some of the same crimes, petty and otherwise. Above the belt and below the belt. In other words, some of them are sexual offenders. I don't want to trigger the algorithms, but yeah, that's what they are. Oh yeah, you're going to some of them slums in these countries from which you look up to the people that are living in the United States with you all, because they were handpicked by the U.S. embassies and consulates before they were even given a visa. They got to bring in bank statements that show they've got some really high minimum balance. They were cherry-picked, and then they go to the States, look down on you because they were looking down on their own people back home. looking down on the majority of the population back home. And you sitting up looking up to them, not realizing they were handpicked, they were cherry-picked. They left behind their own Pookies and Ray Rays. What is unique about us is the level to which we accept and the level to which we are desensitized to the Pookies and Ray Rays, even in high income and educational levels of our own population. That is where we are distinct. What is the case is this: you ain't gonna have some street rat in Karachi and all the suburban women of Karachi love him and he got a bunch of babies, some he don't even know about because he just so sexy. They don't like his bullet wounds and his tattoos and his stab wounds and all that other stuff. No, that ain't what they're looking for. That's what's going on there. What doesn't happen there is that you got some street rat dating a corporate attorney over there and then killing her and get into a shootout with the police and killing himself. Getting himself killed. That's what doesn't happen. Do they have that over there? Oh, yeah. But is the population desensitized to it, to where they glamorize and glorify that stuff? No, shuck that fit. That's where we are different. So when you sit up and brag about how you'll buck somebody else's fitch, and even if they say, well, she for the streets, yeah, but I got her first. I had her before she had kids. If that's the case, you got to understand something. You really aren't bragging about yourself. You were simply saying, well, look at me. And you thumping your chest because you were the one that got to F some hyena baboon B word before she became a single mom. She's still a hybristophilic B word. She for the zoo. The fact that she chose you when she didn't have no kids only means that there was something wrong with you because there was something wrong with her from the beginning. That ain't nothing to brag about, bruh. We grown now. I bucked your fitch is not something you can boast about. You gonna mess around and brag about effing somebody's wife. And see, Alan Roger Curry's just one of the lucky ones that got away when husbands found out what he was doing and chased him down, and he managed to get away with no bullet wounds. You ain't got that guarantee. If you're gonna pump and dump, bro, okay, you pump and dump. Why are you gonna brag about it? And how you gonna sit up here and look at dudes that are so-called squares and brag about the fact that you get to bang some scallywags that they didn't? The older we get, the better we get at judging these women. The older we get, the more we see how jacked up the culture's become. Not because of the existence of the Pookies and the Ray Rays, but because of the desensitization. See, the fact is, you have counterparts in other cultures, and you probably know this from experience. But what is different is that those counterparts in other cultures don't have the same legitimacy amongst the people of their culture that you have amongst the American Negro. And I'm not only talking to you, sir, nor am I talking to you like this out of hatred. But the fact is that culture used to practice is BS, and your loyalty to it that remains is still BS. You ain't going far enough yet in terms of reform. Malcolm X did. That's the end of that. The square is right and you're wrong. And your whole resultant outlook, which led to this YouTube beef, which seems to be something that would just generate attention and a diversion, like you just got bored or something, so you turned on a man that put you on, is part of that. It's a result of that. But we ain't got time for this mess. And by the way, all you other cats in the sphere that are usually not content creators, but you love to be in them comment sections, first off, some of y'all are professional trolls. Man, get the hell up off them keyboards if that's what all you gonna do. These YouTube beefs and grudges, they come about every year. Temperature drops, these rise. I guess it's our way of staying warm, huh? But one thing that some of y'all are doing is over-sensationalizing the strains and the fractures that result. Oh man, the manosphere is over. This is an annual phenomenon. And every year somebody gets into a debate and an argument about the role of women in the manosphere, even when these women have not been caught lying. They may be, they may disagree with us about some things, but when they've not even been caught lying, we start questioning their honesty. Now, I'm all for being hard on women about the things under their control, but that does not extend to blaming them for things they did not do. If we do not catch them lying, we don't question their honesty. And this needs to stop. It's childish. What it shows is we still have that jigaboo mindset. Many of us, even some of us that were never in them streets, still had that mindset that glorifies that street way of thinking, at least to an academic level. We don't want to pay attention to detail. We want to get on here with a low reading comprehension and terrible spelling and punctuation in our first language and start debating stuff. You can't do that. None of us can. You think I'm sitting up here debating? I mean, I've learned enough Arabic to give and take directions. You think I'm sitting up here debating in Arabic things that are real deep and nuanced with them? I don't have the vocabulary or the grammar for it yet. So I avoid that. Now, if I get it and I understand the discussions and I can respond easily in their language, then I would do so. But it's not my first language, and I'm aware of that. But some of y'all just want to act like, you know what, I didn't pay attention in basic language arts class when I was in high school or middle school. I was too cool for school. But now with my literate dumb ass, I'm going to get on here and start debating with a phone keyboard on top of that. And what you're doing is you're over-sensationalizing stuff, leading to unnecessary arguments. Some of you content creators need to stop entertaining this dumb stuff. Because as I said before, you got commentators that are professional trolls. That's all they do. They just sit up and troll. It's like somebody's paying them almost. Now, regarding this focus on women, understand that is normal because men and women are naturally concerned about each other. That's a normal thing. The difference is we were never taught to hate the women, so when we come across their hatred of us, which is completely unnatural, we have to sit up and discuss ways to deal with that. That's not our fault. Do we need to talk about tech, crypto, and other things too? I guess so. I mean, it depends on what we do need to talk about skills acquisition, yes, certainly. But we also have to, we also have to get over this idea that we're wrong because we're talking about the opposing gender. Because the fact that I'm saying opposing and not opposite is a travesty in and of itself. But it's not my fault. I didn't tell them to oppose us. So they talk about us in the context of a lick, a mark, resources, someone to take care of me, someone to give and not take. That's the way they discuss us. And you want to sit up here and want to point fingers because there are men that are talking about how to cope with this one-sided insistence that is not considered normal in any other sphere of culture, any other sphere of influence. I'm not talking about YouTube spheres now. I'm talking about ethnospheres, cultural situations. Do they have needs? Certainly. Are they allowed to take and not give? They're not even allowed to discuss something like that unchallenged. So, yeah, we got to get the we suck at history. That's the thing. I notice we are terrible when it comes to history. We're just really bad when it comes to that. Something happens annually and we ain't picked up on the pattern yet. I could pick up on it from 2019 up until now. Guess what's going to happen? Somebody else that's a matchmaker is going to start saying these women are asking too further muck and much and they care about all the wrong things and I'm done trying to matchmake and find somebody for them. It's the ladies, it ain't the men. Somebody else is going to get up and saying that. What the hell have I been saying since I got started? The women are driving the men away. The men have no accountability to take in terms of why couples aren't forming anymore. We should have stopped agreeing to form couples. We should have been stopped a long time ago. We should have stopped approaching because what's happening? We're making it too easy and all they're doing is becoming too demanding in addition to them refusing to offer anything in exchange. I am the table. Ma'am, you weigh 8 tables. Talking about some I am the table. Ma'am, you ate all tables clean. Talking that mess. And that's what we've been dealing with. So there's nothing wrong with the fact that we got to discuss them. That's normal. And I'm going to say this to those of you, even if I like you, if you're someone saying that you men need to get out there and start approaching some of them in real life, bruh. No. Unless you live in an area in which it's really friendly like that, and where at the very least these men are not blamed for who decided to decline, where one rejection does not guarantee that they will always be rejected every single time they make every other approach subsequent to that, then you don't need to say that. Now, if you live in a place like that, fine. But if you live somewhere where these women love to do the nuclear rejection thing, so because they get high fives from their friends for telling that chump to get lost. If you live in an area where they feel entitled, and they're talking about they are the table, but what do men bring to the table? And they refuse to bring anything to the table, and they refuse to watch their weight, and they refuse to watch their diet, and they refuse to watch their manners. And they're not, as a matter of fact, if you live in an area where they don't make it very clear what it is that they like in men and want in men, and the success rate for cold approaches is at least medium, and fuck the shuck up. Stop telling men to do that. Sick of y'all saying that. That's exactly what the hell you think men have been doing. What do you think led to this scenario? We made it so easy until they finally decided there was no right way to approach. The younger men picked up on that. They got smart. It's not natural, but they had to deal with it. And now you want to sit up and make jokes about the young men not making approaches and what they doing on OnlyFans. No, what we need to tell these men is don't make approaches in person, first off, and don't go on OnlyFans and send them any money. Don't validate them. They pretend like they can live all their whole lives without men. They just need our resources. That's how they pretend. Well, you know what? Go ahead, gentlemen, and tell these men that since women are forcing men to learn how to live by themselves with no one, that they tell them to go ahead and show these ladies that they have learned how to live by themselves with no one. That's actually the smart thing to do, to tell these men. She demands, not only she, but collectively, they have pretty much put you in a situation in which you must live by yourself most of the time. You're already practicing celibacy most of the time. It's forced. So then what? Okay, well, since you've learned that, go ahead and show them how easy it has become for you because you had to practice it already. Because, gentlemen, whether you want to admit this or not, this is not an opinion. This is something that we have observed. Women are complaining now, pointing their phone cameras at themselves in their cars, and complained and had meltdowns that they themselves recorded because men aren't making approaches anymore. And what are these ladies doing? They're blaming each other for making it so difficult that the men had to give up. That got more results. The men not approaching has gotten more results than anything else. The only way to get more results is for the men to become more used to being by ourselves. Those who have to be so. And don't sit up and say, well, man, you married to a nice lady from East Africa and everybody can't do that. No. Before, I was used to being by myself. And there are some permanent consequences to it. And if she had been married to someone else before me, she probably would have a comparison to make to know some of these permanent consequences. So no, I've been through that. That's why I'm telling you that we can do that. The only other thing that can make it better is to start being real cheap, not with your health, but with them. Don't even go on OnlyFans and send no money. Don't cash app them nothing. None of that. What do you want from them? Whatever it is. Above or below the belt, they turn around and withhold it. Crimson Cure told you that. Guess what? What do they want from you? Your resources? Withhold it. Nothing else has gotten results. You're not making approaches enough for them. That's good. Now stop validating them online. Stop sending them money on OnlyFans. That's the only thing that can get more results than what you're getting now. And even then, don't sit up and think it's going to make things better for your generation right now. What that might do is help make things better for the ones that are now kids, the men and the women. That will be men and women, but are now still little boys and girls. That is what, they're the ones that would benefit. Because I'm going to tell y'all straight, right now at this point, nothing else has gotten the results. Why do you think these ladies sit around here and complain when men stop making approaches, and then these game teachers and dating roaches start to complain too? Because they know they understand what it is. And the funny thing is, they complain on behalf of the women that are complaining, and the women never, ever, ever pay dating coaches. They do not pay dating coaches. It's the men who have to pay. That's the other thing. Don't pay them a furthermucking dime to tell you anything. And they're not telling you, the only thing worth paying them for is what information do they have about what women want men to know and don't want to tell us, or better yet, what women don't even want us to know. Now, if they're going to give you that information, that's worth paying them for. As soon as they start saying, okay, now we're going to work on your wardrobe. No, I might do that on my own. But no, we're not going to sit up here. We're not going to pay you to turn around and tell me what changes to make to get her. No. Now that I know what they want, I'm going to go for someone else, something else. You have every right, as a matter of fact, every obligation to do that. You a fool if you don't, really. Nothing else has gotten results better than this. And that's why you got these, that's why some of these pookies want to talk about game. The minute the dude brags about game, understand, if that game is not getting him married to royalty, or someone that's paid as royalty, and she a virgin, and she's equally childless as he is, or at least has less of a body count than he does, it's not worth getting from someone else. That's not game. Because these men talking about game, they have to remember something very important. Game is something that men have never had the way women do. That's because, honestly, women have men making approaches. Men just stop doing that. How you going to sit up and say you got game? Assalamu alaikum, sir. Alhamdulillah. So how you going to sit up and say you got game when they're the ones got you making approaches, and you just now realizing that it's not worth it, and you just now stopping? And they weren't ready for it, and now they're complaining about it. That means that their game just failed. Your game has been failing. That's why cold approaches have an 87% failure rate, which is unacceptable. The whole paradigm is wrong. I'm telling you the same thing that I think it was Trey. No. It was Trey's dad told Cain, and don't be a in a menace to society. I was about to say don't be a menace to South Central while drinking your juice in the hood. But no, what Trey's dad told Cain in that movie, when he was behind bars, when you come to visit me, man, I can't see you locked up like an animal, and I can understand that. But then he said, look, man, I know how you feel about Ronnie, and it's cool, man. Look, raise Trey better, man. Tell Trey that the whole way we grew up is BS. And that's what I'm saying about the Pookieism and about the game and everything else. That whole way we came up was BS. You got lower testosterone levels now. Utilize that. You already stopped making approaches. More of you stop making them. And don't validate them online either, especially financially. And when we're dealing with these cats who want to make you feel bad about being some kind of square, look, man, being a square don't mean you a wimp. Get on them too, because the way they grew up is BS. Thanks for listening. Black heart, black mind, blackout. Sorry I couldn't keep this shorter. Assalamu alaikum in black, heterosexual, non-select, square, male power, because she don't like it. And because the Pookies don't like it. And black patriarchy until extinction or judgment day.